let's get right into it.
Number 7. The Forbidden Experiment. Imagine someone in a powdered wig whispering, "What if we raised a baby in a silent bubble and watched whether language sprouts like weeds?" Horrifying thought, yes. Also exactly the kind of thing philosophers, monarchs, and cruel curiosity mongers have whispered about for centuries. The forbidden experiment is the name for deliberately depriving a human of language input to see what language, if any, emerges. It sounds like a premise for a dystopian indie film, but it's real in the sense that it's been proposed, debated, and occasionally attempted through history in far uglier forms than anyone should stomach. People have pointed back to stories from ancient Egypt and to modern thought experiments about isolating infants to test the origins of language. The moral verdict is unanimous. Don't. You'd learn some cold, weird facts about language if you did it, sure, and you'd also permanently wreck people's minds in the process, which is a bad trade-off even for science's most dramatic data point. The ethical lines here are not whimsical guidelines. They exist because humans don't come with a reset button. So the experiment lives in academic folklore, a thing scientists mention when they want to sound spooky and theoretical, and then immediately say, "We'll never do that."
Number 6. CRISPR babies. You know that feeling when some tech bro promises to optimize everything, and you suspect the end result will be terrifyingly shiny and morally bankrupt? Welcome to the era of human germline editing. In 2018, a researcher shocked the world by announcing he'd edited embryos that were then carried to term, the infamous CRISPR babies story, and the global reaction was a mixture of horror, legal fury, and bioethics journals printing their angriest editorials. The reason this ranks as forbidden-ish is twofold. First, changes to the germline, that is, edits that get passed down to future generations, can't be recalled. Second, the technology is still clunky enough that off-target effects or unexpected health outcomes are a genuine risk. Scientists argue about the potential, curing devastating inherited diseases, for instance, but the moment you start editing babies' DNA for anything other than clear therapy, you're on a slippery slope toward redesigned as consumer product. In other words, the science is seductive, the consequences permanent, and the ethics committees are still chain-smoking in the waiting room.
Number 5. Human-animal chimeras. Picture a pig that's just been told it's supposed to be an organ donor for you. That mental image is exactly why human-animal chimera research sits in the awkward corner between medical miracle and philosophical nightmare. In labs, scientists have injected human stem cells into animal embryos, mice, pigs, even primate embryos in tightly controlled settings, to study development and, more tantalizingly, to one day grow transplantable, human-compatible organs. Technically, this could save thousands of people on waiting lists. Ethically, it raises a stubborn buffet of questions. What if human cells contribute substantially to an animal's brain and produce some degree of human-like cognition? What if human reproductive cells accidentally form and a pig produces human gametes? There are safeguards and legal frameworks being debated, but the sight of discussion documents with phrases like moral status and protection shows you how close this research comes to stirring a public panic. It's the kind of science that looks great on a grant application and terrifying on the evening news. So researchers proceed with microscopes in one hand and ethics papers in the other. Number 4. Brain-to-brain linking. Ever wish you could just beam your thoughts into someone else's head without the awkwardness of explaining them? Yeah, scientists have too. And that's where brain-to-brain communication experiments sneak into the conversation. We're talking about setups where researchers wire brains together using EEG caps and magnetic stimulation, letting one person's brain signals nudge another person's motor cortex. It's been tested in simple ways, like sending the "move your hand now" impulses across the globe, and the results are both fascinating and mildly horrifying. Imagine a future where someone could literally hijack your motor system and make you twitch like a puppet. Or worse, hack into your sensory cortex and make you feel or see things they want. The reason this research stays fringy and restricted is obvious. If you can transmit information brain to brain, you can also manipulate, spy, or reprogram. It's like Bluetooth pairing, but with human dignity on the line. Scientists toy with the edges of this tech in controlled studies, but taking it further drags us into the sci-fi territory of involuntary thought sharing, which is either utopia or nightmare, depending on whether you trust other people's search history.
Number 3. Suspended animation. Your body is essentially a fancy meat computer that needs constant fuel and temperature regulation. Now picture yanking the power cord and freezing the system mid-task. Suspended animation, halting biological processes so a person can be revived later, is the Frankenstein fever dream that has popped up in both science fiction and emergency trauma research. There have been animal trials where lowering body temperature and replacing blood with cold saline let researchers pause life functions temporarily before bringing subjects back. Humans? Still too dicey. In theory, suspended animation could revolutionize space travel. Nap your way to Mars, or emergency medicine, buying time to repair catastrophic injuries. In practice, it's terrifying because shutting down and restarting a human body is not like pausing Netflix. Cells get cranky when oxygen disappears, brains don't tolerate extended downtime, and there's no guarantee you wake up as you. Until scientists figure out how to stop death without triggering worse outcomes, suspended animation remains one of those "we'll get to it, someday, maybe" experiments that feels like cheating biology's save file.
Number 2. Synthetic consciousness. Okay, let's say you've built a super advanced AI. It talks, jokes, maybe even whines when you ignore it. But here's the forbidden leap. What if you give it actual consciousness? Not just mimicry, not just a clever chatbot, full-blown self-awareness. Scientists toy with models of consciousness all the time, but creating it artificially remains taboo. Why? Because consciousness isn't just a neat trick. It comes bundled with moral baggage. If your code is suddenly aware, you've basically created a new form of personhood inside a box. And that raises awkward issues like rights, suffering, and whether you're guilty of torturing it every time you reboot the server. The reason researchers stop short is partly technical. We don't even fully understand how our brains generate consciousness, but also because nobody wants to be the person who accidentally spawns a digital soul. It's the kind of forbidden science idea that lives comfortably in philosophy papers and sci-fi novels, but would cause an ethical earthquake if anyone tried it in earnest.
Number 1.
Resurrecting the dead. Ah yes, the one idea that's been haunting both scientists and horror writers since forever. Bringing the dead back to life. It's the ultimate just because we can doesn't mean we should scenario. On paper, this is called resuscitation science or reanimation research. In reality, it's the messy intersection of cryonics, neurology, and pure hubris. The idea is simple. Stop death from being permanent. The execution? Not so much. You'd need to preserve cells before decay sets in, prevent brain tissue from turning into biological soup, and somehow reboot consciousness like it's an app that just crashed. And even if you did manage to reanimate someone, what exactly would wake up? The same person or a meat puppet with last week's memories and none of the soul? There have been unsettling real-life flirtations with this. Scientists have partially revived pig brains hours after death, restoring some cellular activity. It didn't result in consciousness, but it definitely made everyone in the ethics department cancel lunch. Then there's cryonics, freezing bodies in the hope that future medicine can repair and reawaken them. Sounds cool until you realize ice crystals shred your cells like microscopic glass shards, and that future medicine hasn't RSVP'd yet. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.